You know, doing a pancake is surprisingly hard, all right, as we possibly might see, because people either have it too high, too low, it sticks, it burns. It's all about heat regulation, okay? So, someone's in the car, marvellous, that was a bit tricky to make pancakes, but never mind. So, what we're gonna do then is, and by the way, the order, people kind of assume the pancake, check it all in, mix it, you don't, all right? That is a mistake, and there is an order. So 100 grams even, pardon me, of plain flour. And what we then do is crack straight in the flour 2 eggs. 1 egg. Just remember, never cracked an egg before, now's a good time. Don't forget, there's a famous French chef called Jacques Pepin, right, a hero, who says you shouldn't actually crack it on the side of a bowl because there is bacteria in the shell. The bacteria goes into the egg. I'm not too sure about that, but I kind of get the point. So actually what you can do is either crack it on the bowl or just crack it on the table. You're in control, little hole, put your finger in just to break it and pull it apart, okay? So 100 grams of plain flour, 2 eggs. We want a little bit of salt, which I know sounds weird in a sweet pancake, but the salt kind of balances the flavour, all right? Literally just a little pinch of salt, and literally a pinch, not a teaspoon, pinch of salt. So I'm gonna get rid of that. I need the eggs later, or we need the eggs later. And what we're gonna do with our 300 mils of milk, I'm gonna add about 50 mils, I may not measure it, but kind of a splash. What I now do, whisk it together. Now obviously, the point of this is, if I just chucked it all in and mixed it, it would become lumpy, and you get lumpy pancakes. Yes, this is recording, and I'll save the recording. Mix. You get a thick paste. Now that's actually what the American pancake's going to probably look like, but not for the standard pancakes. So look at all this what do you call that? Milk, cow juice I've got left. Saves me a long day. So the rest of it goes in. Tablespoon of oil, which I forgot actually, but it doesn't matter too much. 1 tablespoon of oil goes in as well, which also seems weird. Some recipes use melted butter sometimes. Some kind of fat, and that actually prevents it from sticking as well. And we're going to gently mix it. So doing it in that kind of order, all right? So 100 grams of flour, 2 eggs, splash of milk, mix it to a thick paste. Then you add the rest of the milk in. Again, people always tend to get a bit confused because when I pour it into the jug, and if you have got a measuring jug, I would pour it into the jug. It's easier to pour out later. If you see, it's actually fairly thin, kind of double, I don't know, single cream thin, I guess. 1 plate. So, if you're making these kind of live, so to speak, you could, these can keep warm in the oven. These can keep warm in the oven, but actually, like I said, make them, stack them, you haven't got to put anything in between, and then you can reheat them in the microwave really successfully, okay? So temperature you want mid to high, not the highest heat 'cause you'll burn it. So once you think the oil is getting hot, the way I suggest you test it's hot is use a little bit of a mixture and just drop that in. Now, I've just put, you see that hopefully on the camera, let me just try and move it down a little bit more because it's on a bendy arm and the bendy arm keeps bending. There we go. You want that to kind of cook or to fry straight away as soon as you drop the mixture in. If it doesn't, it isn't hot enough, all right? And what happens if it isn't hot enough is that it will stick, all right? It will stick, it will go oily, it will just be hideous, okay? So that actually is not quite hot enough yet. Very nearly hot enough. And trust me, the first pancake nearly always doesn't work. All right, I'm gonna try that again. Take that little mini pancake out. You're going to need a spatula. You are welcome to toss your pancakes. I would suggest you don't. I know it's probably a spoil sport, but you tend to find you waste them because they go on the floor and all sorts. All right, so if you can, use a palette knife, use a slicer. See, this is a fish slice I've got. I'm not going to try and be clever and toss. Okay. Now, as soon as I put those 2 drops in, that has started to cook. So I'm probably going to be okay. All right, so let's give it a minute. This actually is a brand new frying pan as well, so that's probably going to take a while for it to heat up a little bit. Right, so this is key. If you can just watch for 1 second, let me get rid of that. When we do this in school, because I do these in school on purpose, what happens is that students pour the mixture in so then it covers the entire base. What then happens is you get a big fat pancake which is horrible and doughy and doesn't cook. What the key here, and if you're not watching, please watch now, is to pour the mixture in so it covers half of the frying pan. You can see that? And what I then do is, I then tilt the frying pan. So then it covers the remainder. Give it a twizzle around and we leave it to set. Okay, on that medium heat. Now we might find this first one is a bit of a disaster, because it often is. Don't worry about that, that's just life. And then because it kind of sorts itself out, it's hard to explain. All right, and I'm going to cook all my mixture just like as you probably will also, right? So this may take a little bit of time. If you have put too much in and you think, oh God, I put too much in, don't worry, just pour some out back into the jug again. It's absolutely not a problem. And with the little frondy bit, you can just flick that back in. Is everyone okay? The ingredients again, no problem. So it's 100 grams of flour. Then you add in 2 eggs. And you splash in 50 mils of milk, about 50 mils of milk, out of the 300. I'm gonna start again because I wasn't very clear. So 100 grams of flour, 2 eggs, 300 mils of milk, tablespoon of oil, and a pinch of salt. And you put I'll tell you in 1 second. Can you just see 1 second? So what you're looking for is around the edge, it will start to go a little bit brown. You now want to loosen. If it's worked right, it should go wiggly wiggly. You want to set up under it. Be quick but confident. Flip. There we go. So, ingredients, apologies, all right? So 100, so literally the first side tends to take longer than the second. Very roughly, once the pan's the right temperature. 30 seconds for the first side, about 20 for the second as a very rough rule. So ingredients, 100 grams of plain flour, 2 eggs, 300 mils of milk, a tablespoon of oil, and a pinch of salt. So you put the flour in a bowl, crack in the eggs, put in a splash of the milk, about a quarter of the milk at the 300, give it a whisk to a thick paste, put in the rest so it looks more like double cream, pinch of salt, add the oil, done. Well done. Right, and as you see, right, be confident. If you want to just check, just turn it over. Done. Right, now, what you can now do is get your plate. Again, hopefully your pan just works like this. What I would do to get them out, if you see, I can't do the right angle to please everyone. I'm doing this cock-handed, so it goes wrong. Just take it out on the plate, and you can stack them. All right, you can make 100. I mean, don't make 100, could be here forever. But now my next one, leave it on the heat again. Be mindful, however, that you need to make these in quite quick succession. Don't then do one and think, oh look, I made one, and take a picture, blah, blah, blah. Because the pan will be getting too hot at that point and then it'll burn. So if you didn't see the first time, bit of oil in the pan. No, I've got a tissue and some oil. Look, I pour the mixture in so it covers half. And you want to hear that sizzle. If you're not hearing that sizzle, it is not hot enough. Twist it around, let it set. All right, these freeze really well, all right, by the way. You got it? Great, good stuff. How are we doing? Are we all good? I said 300 mils, yes. All right, I actually added a bit too much in that one, to be honest, but no one. All right, so you see when I sort of loosen it, you'll kind of know when it's done because it will dry on the top. And if you see what I'm doing here, I'm just peeking underneath, quick look. Yeah, a little bit longer. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Hang on. Pardon me. Pardon me. Right, wash my hands. I'm not going to try and toss it because I make myself look like a plonker, alright? Because it would land, I'm sure, somewhere I don't want it to land, alright? So, everyone good? Great stuff. So, yeah, 30 seconds for one side, 20 for the next, thereabouts, you know, it's not particularly an exact science. But this is a really useful skill because this is about temperature. All right, and once you're happy with pancakes and you've cracked it, then you've cracked it. It's one of those things that you never need to learn again. It's like chopping an onion. Once you learn it and you've done it. Right, so I'm good. On the other side, I don't think you can see that just about. So look, plop it out, plop. There we go. Remember, oil between each pancake. I need a bit more actually in there. Yeah, so if you didn't hear first time, remember, don't try and make these to order on pancake night. Do them a few hours before, leave them in the fridge when people want them, stick them in the microwave, fold them in half or quarters on a plate, microwave them for, I don't know, 30 seconds a minute, boom, done. And you'll see as it goes on, or as you keep making pancakes, you actually get better and quicker. I think the pan gets hotter, you get more confident. Yeah. I'm tempted to toss one just because I feel like it, but I know I'll regret it. All right, see, wiggly wiggly. When you're turning over, sometimes if it folds itself under, don't worry about it, all tastes the same, you know, so it's not the world won't end, it's not a problem at all. Go and do it. Nah. Alright. I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure how many we're going to make here. I reckon with a mixture about 7, I guess. Alright, let's right, so that's number 3. Trois. So let's make them all, might as well. And then we make the American, all right, American pancakes. And then I'll show you a couple of them and then I'm going to assume you'll be good. So, oil, half full, let's set for a second, tip the excess. Go on. Right, I'll have a go at tossing this one. I will not say a rude word if I drop it. Apologies, me blowing my nose, attractive, I know. If you do want to toss it, just as a by the way you would do it is make sure it is fairly well done on the bottom. It just makes it easier. And the way you would do it is if you actually bring it down a little bit. Now this is going to go wrong, I have to sense it. Oh, there we go. I'm not going to redo that. All right, but you would actually do it, kind of push it down the pan and the quick flip and it goes over. Can I hear the applause? No, I can't, but never mind. £30 grams of butter, which is 2 tablespoons. I'm actually going to guess that. It's about that. And you're going to melt it in the pan, just briefly. Then we're going to need to get some scales and a bowl, and I'll say this slowly. when you're melting the butter, by the way, you can do it in the microwave in a cup if it's easier. But you don't want to brown it, alright? You don't want to burn it, otherwise it will taste burnt, okay? Let's see what people are saying. Well, pancakes aren't English anyway, so they're actually French. But you'll see the American pancakes are the thick ones that have real kind of, you'll see much more dense, much thicker when you cook them. Okay, so I need to get a scale, which I'll put behind me. Right, we're good. I can say this a few times, it's not a problem. So let's do the wet ingredients first. So the wet ingredients is a random amount, but it's 130 millilitres, all right? So 130 millilitres of milk. You have just melted 2 tablespoons or 30 grams of butter. So that, move that out of the way, goes in there. So the butter, melted butter goes in 130 mils. You may have a scale that measures millilitres. All right, so 130 mils of milk, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and then just 1 egg. Egg in a bowl, boom. And we will need to give that a little whisk in a jiff. I had a fork at some point. Give that a quick whisk. Is everyone okay? Try and keep it in the things, always good. So you ready? Whisk, 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 whisk. So in here, as a reminder, 130 mils of milk, 30 grams of butter or melted butter, which is 2 tablespoons, 1 egg, right? That's the wet. In the dry, 135 of, again, plain flour. Some salt, again a pinch, which I know sounds odd, but it is important for the flavour. We need some caster sugar, so actually 2 tablespoons of caster sugar. So that's tablespoons. Any questions? We're okay? Right. 1 and 2. And then we need, which I haven't got out, which is helpful, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So let me go and get some baking powder. Oh, I've got baking powder, I'll lie. More organised than I thought. So 1 teaspoon, and I'll run through this in a second, all right? So now that's going to give you the lift. That's what's going to give you the bubbly element, right? So boom, 1 teaspoon of that. So very quickly then, in the dry, we've got 135 grams of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and 2 tablespoons of caster sugar. In the wet, 130 mils of milk, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, which is 30 grams, and 1 egg. Okay? Any issues? Is everyone okay? How much flour? So how much it was? 135. I know it's precise. I will say all that again in a sec, all right? Give you minutes to sort yourselves out. Hopefully then, logically, we add the wet to the dry, all right? Pretty standard in most recipes. You add the wet to the dry. We're going to give that a mix. You should see it will be a thicker mixture. See that? Pretty thick. So, just quickly before we fry these, 135 of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar, caster sugar, or granulated, doesn't really matter. The wet was 130 mils of milk, 1 egg cracked in, and then you melt 2 tablespoons of butter, which is 30 grams. You melt that and you pour that in as well. And that's the mixture you get. Is everyone okay? Rewind, hang on a second. I'm gonna wait a minute. Right. So, Spellman, do you want anything repeated? You want it all repeated? Oh man. Right, I'll tell you what, you can have a look at the video back for the plain ones. For the American pancakes, the fluffy ones, you need, get a pen, 135 grams of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and 2 tablespoons of caster sugar. All right, that all goes into the bowl, like the dry bowl. In a jug or whatever, you need 130 mils of milk, crack in 1 egg into the milk, and then you need to melt 2 tablespoons of butter, and 2 tablespoons of butter is 30 grams. So that's your wet. You then put your wet into the dry, and you will get a really thick mixture like the following. I'm going to show you how this works. Same pan, same heat, same oil. We want a spoon. You want like a metal spoon, I would suggest. Let me go and get a spoon. My frying pan's quite small actually. No problem, okay. My saucepan's frying pan's quite small, so I probably just can do 1. Again, these are meant to be smallish, not hench. You can do a massive one, but so 1 spoon. Make sure the pan's hot. I'm probably going to put a couple of spoons on because I want a decently sized one. Right, there you'll see it's quite big, all right? It's fairly, but that's kind of the point, yeah? So we put baking powder in here. What we're now going to do, because I've got it on the same heat I did the pancakes on, which is kind of medium to high, not the highest, but kind of maybe 1 down from the highest, is we put it in and we're literally going to let it sit. Now, what we're visibly looking for is there will start to be little bubbles, little holes will appear, bloop, 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 like that, and it will start at the edge and it will start. Let's make sure there's enough oil in there. And what will happen is, yeah, I can see little bubbles starting to pop on the top. Can you see that on YouTube? Now, I think this is a little bit too high, this pan. Oh, that's probably not too bad. I'm going to turn this down slightly. What you need to remember is, the normal pancakes or the French pancakes are thinner, therefore they cook quicker. These are thicker, therefore take longer. Because these are thicker, you're probably saying that need to turn the heat down a little bit, because otherwise if you do it too high and they cook too quick, you'll have a kind of a well cooked outside, but you cut them open and they're raw, which is obviously never a plan. Okay? So, just for everyone's benefit, very quickly, for the standard everyday pancake, it's 100 grams of plain flour, 2 eggs, 300 mils of milk, pinch of salt, a tablespoon of oil. That's it. Give me 1 sec. Right. Now I can see, look, even you can see that's a little bit well done. Still tastes alright, but a little bit well done. So what I'm going to do then is you adjust the heat. I've now turned the heat down. I'm going to add a bit more oil, because obviously also what happens is that as you leave the pan on, the pan's going to get hotter, alright, so you have to adjust for that as well. Okay, so we'll give that a second just to cool down. For the American pancakes, so the dry stuff is 135 of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, or a pinch of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's the dry. In the wet, 130 mils of milk, 1 egg, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter, which is 30 grams of butter, right? So, and you put the wet into the dry. Okay, so American, again, you decide on the size. I'm putting 2 spoons. That's the better heat now, I can just tell. Don't worry about flattening it out or anything, it will sort itself out when it cooks. And again, these microwave amazingly well, really, really good. Not long in the microwave at all, 30 seconds maybe. It's so much easier when trying to do these to order, all right? Do them all beforehand, far less stress. Okay, so with these, you want a medium heat. Wait until you start seeing the bubbles appear. You know, you should kind of know, because you can sort of, it will move. The pancake's easier to move. I'm going to flip this over quickly. Pop. These side bits move. Right, that's better. Is everyone okay? I'm assuming everyone is alright. Any questions on? And there we go.